We've planted mostly medicinal plants here, and they all have a use that we apply to patients and to clients to help them with one thing or another. And so this is a particularly useful one. This is one that we use all the time. It's called Sangre de Drago, which means blood of the dragon. And the active part of this plant is the sap that comes from the bark. And so Teddy will cut it. Cortale doing this. And it gives a very dark brown sap, and we use this to cure people of stomach ulcers. When you're using it internally, you have to use it carefully, so you give somebody 10 drops of this in the morning in a glass of water and 10 drops at night, and that cures stomach ulcers very well. And also for cuts that you have outside the body, it seals up the cut, and it heals it from the inside, and it closes it up without letting it infect and without leaving a scar. So it's incredibly effective. And so when you use it externally, you froth it up and make it into a white foam, and then you put it, and then you scrape it off the hand, and you put it there directly inside the cut, and it becomes like a scab. And then as that goes away, it leaves it completely healed. You know, and it puts it together. I've used it. I use it almost every day for one thing or another. So it's an extremely useful plant. And so if you want to grow more hair, what you do is you put this in water, let it soak overnight, and then you rub it on your head in the morning.
Oh, that's the one Bruce was talking about?
That's right. This is the one Bruce is trying to use to see if he can make his transplant take effect. You know, so a lot of women use this when they come also as a cream rinse to make the hair soft. Okay, this is another interesting plant right over here. This is called bacachuchu, and used for killing funguses. And so this one is called bacachuchu because it looks like the udder of a cow. And it's a very aggressive toxic plant that you wouldn't want to take internally because it's poison. But it's useful for killing athlete's foot and for killing funguses. And so the internal part of that pod is put directly on the fungus, and it kills athlete's foot. And so this is a very important plant that we use on a daily basis almost. This is called Chiri Sanango. And this is a plant that I took for a couple of years when I was in shamanic training, because its effect is to give you a strong immunity on a physical, psychological, and spiritual level, so you can work with sick people all the time without being affected. Right. And so it's incredibly useful for that, and it's also useful for opening the crown chakra, for opening the visionary, intuitional chakra. And it builds a conduit from the emotional center into the visionary center, so that in ayahuasca trance you can move past the human and into the solution realm of the spirit world. And that's why it has a purple flower on the top, because that's the celebration of the crown chakra, of the third eye. This is Taos. It's a hallucinogenic plant. It grows all over the world. And it goes by other names: datura, belladonna, nightshade, and I've taken it 6 or 7 times, and it's a very, very powerful and useful plant. It's used for divination many times, to find out where things are hidden, or secrets that are occult, and it's also used for shape shifting, for moving into other shapes, and for taking on other personalities. And so it's incredibly powerful and something to be used with a lot of care and respect. One of the side effects of this plant is often to blur the optic nerve for a couple days after use, so you have to be careful about that. The leaves, we sometimes include them in the ayahuasca brew to make a combination of ayahuasca and datura. So I personally don't do that because it puts too many unpredictable factors into the effect of the medicine. And I prefer to use ayahuasca and chacruna because that is a perfect formula as it is. And if you want somebody to go farther and deeper, it's just a matter of giving them a larger dosage. Whereas here, if you give them too large of a dosage, you know, they may come out with blurred vision, and the experience could last longer. And that's kind of frightening for a beginner, you know, because you lose touch with time and space, and so it's very difficult. Now this is a very powerful and very important plant. This is called a chote, and we use this to treat the prostate gland. And when people have cancer of the prostate, what we do is we make them a tea out of about 60 of these leaves. It makes a dark brown, tea that they will drink about a pitcher a day. And we'll usually, when somebody has prostate cancer, for instance, we will combine this with cat's claw and with Ajo Sacha, so that it will disinflame the entire prostate gland and the urinary tract. Teddy's about to show you the seed pod here. The seed pod has a bright red dye in the berries. People use it to paint their faces, and they also use it to dye cloth, and it's very impressive. They use it to dye hair too. Some people dye their hair red with that. Yeah, so if you want to dye your hair red, you can dye it with that. And Teddy will, at no extra cost, he'll paint your face red, you know, like a warrior.
Yeah, I'm good.
He's fine. He's good. Okay, so this is a useful little plant too that we use quite often, and this is a natural novocaine. This is called boton de oro, or gold button, and so chew on this and see what it does to your mouth. And so when a child is teething, when they're just getting their teeth and their gums are hurting, they're crying all the time, we'll dice up about 5 of these, and then we'll take a Q-tip and we'll put that on their gums to take away the pain, because it numbs the area. Now this is piñón blanco. This is used for purging the intestines and the stomach of parasites. It's quite a dramatic and drastic plant, and it'll give you diarrhea for a few days if you take it, but it does clean out the parasites very effectively. Okay, this is a very important plant for heightening the immunity and the sperm count in the man. It's called clavohuasca, and it has the smell of clove. So if you put a leaf together, you smell that and you see that it smells a bit like clove. So we put that in cane sugar alcohol, and we make a drink that's pretty tasty. And people take it as a tonic to replenish their vital energy. And this plant here is probably the most well-known and the most popular plant in the Occidental world from the Amazon. It's called cat's claw, and it's available in most health food stores. And it's a broad spectrum anti-inflammatory and immune booster. And it combines very nicely with other plants because it affects the entire body. It has no negative side effects, and it disinflames the whole system, and it increases the immunity of the system at the same time. Now this is an Amazonian version of coca, and so this is a very important plant that grows in the Andes as well, and it's used to take care of stomach aches, altitude sickness, and it also is used to take away hunger and fatigue. And the Indians in the Andes chew it most of the time in order to work and to hike and to party. So it's a very popular plant. What we have here is ayahuasca, and this is quite young ayahuasca, but you can see that it's growing up here in a wall of ayahuasca. We have it growing all over the place. And the way to plant ayahuasca is just to take a stem like this, put it underneath of the grass, and it'll put out shoots and find something to climb up. And it'll climb up the trees, and it will dominate the entire area and continue growing sideways and vertically. And so when the ayahuasca root gets to be about as thick as an arm, which when it comes to be about 6 years old or so, 4 to 6 years old, that's when we boil it and we use it for the brew that we drink every night. Now the complement to ayahuasca is chacruna, and every time we cook ayahuasca, we include about 3,000 of these chacruna leaves, and this is where the DMT comes from. And so the combination of the two plants is the magical effective brew that we drink in the ayahuasca ceremonies. And so the ayahuasca vine is an enzyme inhibitor that allows the DMT in the chacruna leaf to assimilate into the bloodstream and to bring the experience on. This is malva. It's a very important plant that we use every day, and it's a mucilaginous plant. And it makes a tea when you put it in water and just simmer it a little bit. It makes a mucilaginous tea that lowers the temperature of the body, takes fever out of the stomach and out of the intestines, and it lowers the temperature. So it's a very good balancer for ayahuasca, because when you drink ayahuasca, it heats the body up. So I usually drink a glass of malva every morning, to keep my digestion strong. And so this is San Pedro cactus, which is a very strong hallucinogen, and one that we use occasionally here, and that I've taken quite a few times. The active ingredient is the thin green membrane directly underneath of the skin, and it's almost pure mescaline. So if you take about this much of San Pedro and you take all of the little green membrane out from underneath of the skin and you eat it like jello, you'll have about an 8 to 10 hour mescaline trip. And it's a very strong ally and a very strong teacher, and it's considered one of the masculine power plants, and it coordinates well with ayahuasca. Although ayahuasca, I think, as a healer is probably more effective, but this is extremely good for divination and also for connecting you with your allies, with your spirit allies, and with your power animals, and also for putting you in touch with the environment. And over here we have a noni. Noni is a plant that we have about 60 bushes of noni here, and they grow really fast, and they produce a seed pod that's medicinal, and it cleanses the blood and the lymph system. It's used as a preventative and a treatment for people who have cancer. And so you can get noni in most health food stores around the world now. It's been promoted a lot in the last few years. This is where the medicine is in here. And in order to use it, you have to ferment it, or you have to combine it with water. And we have a processing plant for noni that I'll show you now. It's over here. But this is a very effective plant for cleansing the blood and the lymph system. And so it's something that we use on a regular and constant basis. And all of these white trees that you see here, these are Sangre de Drago trees. Remember the one I showed you at the very beginning, where we took the sap? Well, these are Sangre de Drago. These are little ones that we planted a couple years ago, and some of them are doing well and some of them are doing moderately well. But we have 400 of these trees because we want to have a really good supply of Sangre de Drago, because it's something that we use a lot of, and it's indigenous only to this area, so you can't find it anywhere else.